Good evening, guys. Hi, hope everyone's keeping well. Rob back for another video. So there's a thread being a thread. Is there a thread? A thread that's been going around recently with regards to perfect sides, or I think it was quoted as flawless sides, I think, as Richard McCook put it, unless I'm very much mistaken. So yeah, I mean, a few people have kind of jumped on this over the last 2 or 3 weeks or so, and I've watched some of them. Some of the albums that I thought of have already been shown and included, so obviously I've kind of not gone back to the drawing board as such, because there's an awful lot of records that I love, and I really like, you know, one or the other side quite a lot, that I'm going to show tonight. Ones where I pretty much like the entire album, but I suppose they're not perfect. So there's a lot more that I could have put in, but I've just kept it to 10. And these are probably not what I would say my favorite records, but they're records that I play, you know, with reasonable kind of frequency throughout the year. They're albums that I enjoy, but they've all got one thing in common, and they all have a side which I think is flawless. So yeah, there's no part of that or track on that side that I don't enjoy. So yeah, I mean, these are all ones that I kind of, because I really wasn't sure whether I was going to participate in this thread, but these are all records that I've played over the last sort of week, 10 days, and revisited. I thought, yeah, I like every single track on that side, so you know, I'm happy to. Yeah, I'll be happy to talk about those and highlight them here. So, okay, let's go. So, right off the bat, first one. This is one that I haven't actually played for a while. So this is Still Bill. So this is Bill Withers. I think this is his second album from 1971 or 2, unless I'm very much mistaken. I think it's 72 actually. I'm going to get the record out, but I think it's 72. Yeah, and I mean, the first side, it's a great album throughout, but the first side is a belter. So it starts off with Lonely Town, Lonely Street, really funky, fantastic. Quite a long track, I think it's about 5.5 minutes. Just a great groove. Sounds fantastic. This is on Sussex Records, where a lot of these kind of soul and funk records were released on. I've got Eddie Senna and a couple of others, and they all sound really good. Even though the copies that I picked up weren't in particularly good condition, they just seem to be pressed really well, engineered and mastered really to a high standard, so they just really pop and come out the speakers. So yeah, anyway, so the next track, Let Me In Your Life, lovely kind of ballad, slightly slower pace, really enjoyed that. And then the next three, I think, are three of the best songs Bill Withers ever did. So you've got What Is He and What Is He to You, who's got kind of a wonderful kind of a bass groove, and kind of quite a slow pace, almost kind of slightly sort of menacing sort of feel, sort of slight undertone of kind of menace perhaps, but just absolutely great. And then goes into the fantastic Use Me, which is a bit more upbeat, very funky. I think Lenny Kravitz did a cover of that on his debut album, Let Love Rule, unless I'm much mistaken. And then it ends, the side one ends with the fantastic sort of gospel-like Lean on Me, which of course was the big single off this. And yeah, just a timeless classic, and kind of a song for our troubled times, I think, as a sort of, you know, as a healing message, perhaps. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful stuff. So that's Bill Withers and Still Bill. Okay, next one is a new album out this year. It's already it's going to definitely probably top my favorite release of the year that I've heard anyway. So we waited 25 years for it, and he certainly didn't disappoint. So yeah, Matt Johnson, The and Ensoulment. And I love the entire album. I don't think there's a bad moment on this, but the first side, Cognitive Dissident, which I think was the first single, fantastic. And then goes into the wonderfully titled Some Days I Drink My Coffee by the Grave of William Blake. Wonderful, wonderful just feel about that. All the tracks on this album are fairly downbeat. When I say downbeat, they're sort of quite acoustic and sort of mid-tempo. There's nothing too sort of upbeat or too in your face. It's very, very listenable, really, really enjoyable. And then a song for our times, I think, Zen and the Art of Dating, which ends side one, is a fantastic song as well. Just all in all, just a great, great listen. If you've not got a copy of this, highly, highly recommend it. Okay, next one, prog folk classic, probably arguably the most accessible album, and I think probably their most commercial chart-wise. It's got the Pentangle and Basket of Light. I think that's an image taken when they played the Albert Hall in London. And yeah, I love every single track on this, but I think particularly the first side. So you've got Light Flight, just fantastic with that kind of Beatles-esque riff at the start. Fantastic energy. I think it was used for a theme. I can't remember what it's for now. It was a program. Yeah, theme from Take Three Girls. Wonderful, wonderful track. And then it goes into Once I Had a Sweetheart. Beautiful traditional English folk song. Yeah, lovely vocals by Jackie McShee on that one. Yeah, I think some lovely glockenspiel playing from Terry Cox. Springtime Promises, really great, with Bert Jansch on vocals. Really enjoy that one. And then Lightweight Dirge, fantastic, with those kind of like sort of choral, sort of cathedral-esque kind of, almost sounds quite sort of monkish, like a sort of Gregorian kind of feel. Fantastic. And then ending with the absolute wonderful sort of chant-like train song, which just has this wonderful kind of repetitive vocal refrain, sort of wordless vocal refrain, just gives it a wonderful sense of movement, and just exemplifies that kind of wonderful jazzy kind of feel that that the certainly the early Pentangle sort of got into, you know, their first couple of albums certainly. And yeah, wonderful. So great first side there. Another classic, kind of psych electronic classic here, So we got David Vorhaus's White Noise. So this is Electric Storm. This is a kind of project that was put together by Delia Derbyshire and Brian Hodgson from the BBC Radiophonic Workshop. They certainly were working, they did quite a lot of work with them. So obviously, yeah, you got the Doctor Who theme, etc. And they used to work with a lot of early electronics and so on, as did David Vorhaus, and just this amazingly creative team just produced this this groundbreaking kind of record of just kind of electronic psychedelia and soundscapes. I like the whole album, but particularly the songs on the first side. So we got Love Without Sound, My Game of Loving, the silliness of Here Comes the Fleas, which is just fantastic. The beautiful Firebird, lovely kind of, got a sort of almost kind of Velvet's kind of feel on that one. And then it ends the side with sort of a sort of prequel to what you sort of, you know, preview of what you're going to hear on side 2, which is Your Hidden Dreams, which is just this wonderful, just kind of ultra dreamlike kind of piece that really kind of is transcendent, really takes you places. Probably my favourite song on the side. Yeah, it's wonderful, wonderful listen. Bit odd, bit off the wall, but well worth listening to. Okay, completely different now. Pop classic from '73. We've got, of course, Band on the Run. I like every single track off this. It's just a fantastic pop album. But for me, particularly side 2 of this, so you've got the wonderful Marmunia acoustic with the harmonies. That's a lovely song. The excellent No Words, which was co-written with Denny Laine. I think that's a fantastic song. Very underrated on this album, I think. Goes into the wonderful Picasso's Last Words, which famously was from a meeting with Dustin Hoffman. And Dustin Hoffman, through a newspaper, Paul McCartney, and said, you know, can you just write a song from a headline or something from nothing? And the headline on the paper was that Picasso had died, I think, the day before. And McCartney picked up his guitar and you know, because apparently his last word was drink to me, drink to my health, you know, I can't drink anymore. I mean, just utter brilliance, and just shows the utter genius of McCartney as a writer. And then it ends with probably arguably my favourite post-Beatles McCartney song, 1985, just an absolute belter. You know, I don't know, I think it's 5.5 minutes, is it, or something. Just that wonderful driving piano on it. McCartney's vocal, just fantastic, slightly affected, but which obviously deliberate as McCartney could do. Yeah, just with the orchestra coming in and everything, you know, from the overdubs that they did, obviously, when they recorded them initially in Nigeria, brought them back to England to record the orchestrations and everything. You know, yeah, just perfect. And then ends, obviously, with the Band on the Run theme fading out. So it sort of ends as it begins, I guess. But yeah, absolute classic. Next one, I think probably my second favourite Zeppelin album. So we got Physical Graffiti from 1975. This was actually the first Led Zeppelin album that I owned. I had a recording of it from a tape of a friend of mine whose older brother was huge Zeppelin fan. Apart from, I think, Whole Lotta Love and Stairway to Heaven, I don't think I'd ever heard any Led Zeppelin. This is probably going back to sort of the late 80s. And yeah, this is a real sprawling album of songs that were kind of recorded over a 2 or 3 year period, from different sessions and so on. And it is a sprawling affair. But for me, the side that I think is perfect is side 3, which starts off with the wonderful In the Light, big 8-minute epic, of which there's several obviously on this album. You've got John Paul Jones with that keyboard, very kind of psychedelic feel, kind of phased vocal of Robert Plant's. And then that goes into, I think, Down by the Seaside, which is fantastic as well. Lovely, languid, kind of almost bluesy, laid-back song. I think I might have got the running order slightly wrong here, so I'm going to just refer to the credits. So, yeah, it's actually Bronier, which comes second, which is that wonderful acoustic guitar, very Bert Jansch-like, from Jimmy Page, with that kind of echo on it. Again, using kind of phasing and so on. It kind of, I think it pans from speaker to speaker. Yeah, obviously named after the house that they wrote a lot of Zeppelin 3 in, which I think was probably, I think, when it was initially recorded. Wonderful, wonderful little instrumental that is. And then the last song, which is arguably one of my favourite Zeppelin songs, 10 Years Gone. Just, I think, one of the most beautiful things that Zeppelin wrote. Just a wonderful ballad, 6-minute ballad, with one of my favourite guitar solos of anybody really. I think the guitar solo in the middle of that is just utterly sublime, beautiful, really kind of heartfelt, and yeah, just a fantastic way to end a perfect side for me. But there's not many on that album that I don't really enjoy. Okay, so next we go into bring it a bit more. A few years later, 1980, we've got the Jam and Sound Effects. I think this is probably, on a good day, this is probably my favourite album by the Jam. But particularly that first side, you've got the wonderful, starts off with the Pretty Green, with that wonderful bass line that sort of starts off, and the kind of snare with the echo. Fantastic. Love that. Just got great space in it. Use of space in that is just fantastic. Wonderful Monday, with just that beautiful harmonies and stuff. Very, very kind of 60s feel. Yeah, wonderful. Probably one in my top 2 or 3 Jam songs ever. 2 great rockers, But I'm Different Now and Set the House Ablaze. Fantastic, and to bring the kind of energy up. Really, really great. Love both of those. And then it ends the side with 2 of their greatest singles, arguably. So Start, obviously, the nod to Taxman, just fantastic. With that wonderful kind of dry snare sound as well. Just really, really great. I think there's just a stellar performance there. And ends up with the wonderful acoustic That's Entertainment, which I believe Paul Weller, if I'm correct, I think wrote after a a drunken night out at a pub, when he'd kind of come back and was kind of less than kind of impressed with the state of the world and maybe himself and his night out, and sort of, you know, is a bit of a kind of a, you know, has a bit of a rant. But yeah, what a fantastic song. What a way to end. For me, is a perfect side. So yeah. Okay, you know, I can never do these videos, or rarely do these videos, without showing a Roy Harper album. And yeah, this is one that I just keep going back to. I love this record, and it's probably one of his easiest records to find. It's in abundance everywhere. You can pick it up really cheap. Yeah, Bullen and Bing Bars, or One of Those Days in England, as it was retitled for the American market. So this is his 1977 release, and yeah, I love the first side. There's no tracks that I don't enjoy off this, but the suite on the second side, which is One of Those Days in England, which reprises the track from that opens the first side, the title track, and then there's another 9 parts, and Roy just does this fantastic suite of songs as he takes you through his thoughts about kind of Merry England, and, you know, takes you through the war, his wartime recollections. He talks about Albion, you know, the wonderful Albion's Everglades, and the sort of romanticism of Keats, and there's all sorts going on. Just his fantastic poetry, lyricism. He's just wonderful guitar playing. It's all backed up with a fantastic band, where you've got people like Henry McCulloch, and Herbie Flowers, Steve Broughton, just stellar musicians, as you know, as Roy always seemed to attract, you know, loads of people, you know, great musicians of the day, wanted to play with him because he was just such an interesting artist to be associated with. Obviously later, you know, you got sort of artists like Kate Bush, Dave Gilmour as well. So yeah, wonderful listen. Roy Harper and One of Those Days in England, parts 2 to 10. Okay, and then keeping in the vein of medleys, so this is Kate Bush's 5th album, Hands of Love. I've been quite scathing about this in the past, in terms of the fact that the first side I'm not a big fan of, because it's just all singles that I just got really sick of. And they weren't, you know, for me, they weren't all songs that I thought were, you know, Kate's best work. I thought that some of the work that she'd done in terms of singles were just a lot stronger than that. That said, I always loved Cloud Busting, the last song on side 1 of that wonderful video with Donald Sutherland. I think it's just fantastic and is a real high point in her career. But for me, what makes this album is the suite on side 2, The Ninth Wave. For me, that is flawless. Fantastic imagery of this woman in the water who's drowning, and just that wonderful, beguiling kind of storytelling that Kate can do in you know, in her songwriting and in her records, using heavy use of the Fairlight, very atmospheric. All the songs, and it starts with And Dream of Sheep, beautiful, with this little light motif, just fantastic. You get that sense of isolation, then the kind of the foreboding and the sort of the horror of being under ice, and the sort of, you know, the feeling of loneliness, the cold, You really get a sense of that. Then you got Waking the Witch, you know, and just those sort of dreadful images of, you know, of being condemned and burnt, drowned, and so on. You know, Watching You Without Me, yeah, Jig of Life, that wonderful folky feel that she gets in there as well, and then Hello Earth changes the feel again, and ending up on a sort of redemption and sort of feeling of, you know, when it's all over and she's saved again and she's kind of back at safety. You've got the Morning Fog, wonderful feel, just fantastic storytelling, wonderful listen, and definitely a highlight for me in a career. Just wonderful. Yeah, love that. Okay, and then to end with, this is a record that I do argue with people about, although my brother's in complete agreement with me on this. So we got the Velvet Underground's fourth album, and the last one with Lou Reed, although I think it was released. I think he'd left the band before it was even released. So this is Loaded from 1970. And for me, it really is genuinely a record of two halves. I love every song on the first side of this. I think they're fantastic. Who Loves the Sun, just a amazing just that kind of almost like a cliche sunshine pop 60s kind of song, which is almost kind of quite out of character for some of the darker elements that the Velvet Underground had kind of pursued on their earlier albums. I think there's obviously a heavy sense of irony there, of course. And then you've got the wonderful Sweet Jane with that kind of chugging sort of double-track acoustic and electric riff, which is fantastic. Rock and Roll, love that. Some wonderful chord changes in that. Love the feel of that, really upbeat. And then the sort of slightly country feel of Cool It Down, which does bring the tempo down a little bit. And ending with the fantastic New Age, which is probably my favourite. You know, sometimes on a good day, that's my favourite Velvet song. You know, can I have your autograph, she said to the fat blonde actress, you know. And just, you know, this idea of meeting, you know, a movie star, and you know, she's kind of like, you know, says she's looking for love. She's over the hill right now, you know, and just that kind of juxtaposition between, you know, fame, fortune, and then, you know, somebody coming up and asking for an autograph. Just wonderful, like, just wonderful little stories I think that Lou Reed could like put together. Fantastic, lovely song. Really enjoyable. Yeah, so that's it, guys. Yeah, just a quick run through, or fairly quick run through of some favourite sides. So there's plenty more, but those are just ones that I've been listening to recently. So anyway, I hope you're all keeping really well. I did pick up some VCLT this week, so I will be making a video to show that in the next, hopefully in the next couple of days. But in the meantime, keep well, keep warm. It's pretty cold at the moment in the UK. And yeah, I'll speak to you all again soon. Cheers, take care, bye-bye.